So welcome to this Lunch and Learn. I think if everybody is Devon and Carla, if you can unmute yourself, we'll get started right away. I think, very good. So this is a kind of a lunch and learn, and I want to thank my colleague Brian Sunday for coming up with this concept. It's very good, and it helps me do what was on my to-do list, which is basically get better acquainted with our alumni, and it's pretty amazing. If you're on LinkedIn and you just want to Google Manhattanville Sport Business Management, you'll see a ton of people doing a lot of great things. So I also want to introduce and thank my boss, Dr. Laura Persky, who's here on the call as well. A very supportive person who helps promote the program and everything, and kind of keeps me in check with when I get aggravated, which is just only so often. But anyway, I just want to also, I wanted to do this earlier, but I'll do it now. If you have any questions, please put it in the chat. I think Brian will also monitor that. But if you're shy and you want to ask me questions later, right now I'm typing in my email address. So please feel free to reach out to me anytime, okay? It's in there, it's david.torromeo@untitled.edu. But feel free to use that chat at your leisure and ask questions. Okay. We did this once. I mentioned in June we had a lunch and learn, which was tremendous. We had Jeff Day, who's an alum with the NHL. We had Kristen Wilson, tremendous young lady from WWE, and it's really important. I think we have a video of that. If you're interested, we can send you that as well. But let's get started with our panelists, because I think these are two pretty special people. I actually went back and looked at their transcripts, and they were both stellar. I'm not going to tell you what their GPAs were, but they were pretty darn good. And not only that, but they're highly regarded by everybody who is associated with the program. So with all that being said, if you know me, you know my motto. It's ladies first all the time. And Carla, we're going to start with you. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much for having me here.
Of course. Thanks for joining us. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about your career path, how you got started and all that kind of stuff, where you're from. I think that's very interesting.
Right. So I'm from the Dominican Republic, and I got to Manhattanville through a government scholarship. So the Dominican Republic government had this scholarship program all over the world, like it's Europe and the US. And so I was picked to go to the Manhattanville College one for the sports management program, which is pretty odd. Like I remember talking to my friends like, oh, I'm going to go to New York and I'm going to get a master's in sports management. And they're like, why? Like, why are you doing that? Like, what's, first of all, it's like, oh, you're like, what's a woman going to do there? Like, that was the first one. Like my friends were like, what are you doing? Like, and how are you going to get a career out of that? Because like in the DR baseball, I mean, it's king, like it's the biggest thing here, and everyone's very passionate about it. But the way that the sports industry is run here, it's not a business. So we have teams and we have like series, and the Winter League is played here. But most of these teams are run by business people who have several other companies. And then when, let's say September, that's when they start paying attention to what's happening with the baseball thing. So it's not like it's a year-round business. It's just, it gets activated prior to the series. And then if we make it to the finals, and there's like a little boom on that, but it's not like a whole year thing. But I was like, yeah, I wanted to do this. It was different, I thought, at least, from getting all that feedback from the people I knew. I was like, yes, I'm going to have this degree and I'll make great things. And when I get back to the country, no one else is going to have this degree. Little did I know, but that's fast forward later. So I got the scholarship. I did the whole application. The people at Manhattanville at all levels were amazing. Like even like before we actually got to the university, like all the follow up and all the help, like are you okay? Like they were amazing. Even like helping, I remember they helped us even like getting from the airport to the university. Like they scheduled that transportation, which was good because like not everyone had relatives there, or not everyone had been in New York, and it could be a little overwhelming. Like, you're moving to another country and all that. So that was good. And then I remember my first day. I always remember this day. I remember my first day in classes where I was in sports marketing with Marty Rockford, I think was his name.
Proper.
Um, that was the year that the Super Bowl was playing in, like, it was going to happen in New York. And I, coming from the Dominican Republic, knew nothing about the NFL. I mean, I knew there was like the Super Bowl was a thing and there was a halftime show. Like I knew that, but I remember feeling pretty intimidated. Like people like talking about like football is huge in the U.S. and people were talking about that and like at the class and stuff. And I'm like, I have no idea what's happening. And I was like, oh shoot, like did I make the right decision? Like, well, I don't belong here. And I remember like I made an appointment with Dave, and I'm like, Dave, I think I want to drop out and like maybe change to marketing, maybe something that I know more. And he was like, he was like so calm. He's like, stay, like don't do anything. Cause I was like, I'm not going to make it. And I think that was like the best decision that I've made. I got to meet so many incredible people on this program. The classes were really great. The knowledge, especially for me, because like I'm coming from baseball, but knowing that there are other industries, that are making tons of money that are super important. And there's so many aspects that I didn't know. So that was pretty good. And so after I finished the program, we had the opportunity to get an internship for credits. So I got an internship with ice hockey in Harlem. Again, something that coming from the Caribbean, not a big hockey, all I knew was the Mighty Ducks movie. I think it was a Disney movie when I was growing up. And we don't have ice rinks here or anything. But like I feel like that was good because I could push me out of my comfort zone. Like I went into the meeting and I knew that if I wanted to move ahead in this industry, especially in the US, like I needed to start getting professional, like start building a resume, because even though like I graduated in college in the DR and I had a career in the DR coming from business, I didn't have anything on the US side. So I'm like, you know what? And I was pretty clear. I'm like, I don't know. I say I don't know a lot about hockey, but back then I didn't know anything. And I was just honest. I'm like, but I want to learn. I'm like, I'm very curious. And like, I'll read everything. And like, I want to get ahead on this. So it went great. And they actually gave me this book. The person that interviewed me, he's like, oh, I have this Bobby Orr's book. And he like read it. And I read it on, like, I started reading on the way back to university. And again, a great experience, learned tons from everyone working there. And I liked that it was a small setting. So there was like I had an opportunity to really like move around everything and doing fundraising events, which is something that I've always liked. And it was really good. After that, I remember at one point I tried to have like three internships at once. That didn't work out. Like that went really bad. It was rugby real time or real time sports. I think Dave, which I was introduced by someone who was in the program too. And there was another one like posting social media posts on sports. And I was trying to do everything all like at 3 stuff at the same time. It didn't work out. I had to like leave those 2 and stay with ice hockey in Harlem because it was one that I thought went more with what I wanted to do in my career. And then after I ended that one, I got an opportunity with Tammy Kettler, with the Dave's friend. Like she's always at all of your events. She's an amazing individual. And she gave me that opportunity. So I was working with her on sports marketing. And she was running this big health fair in Chelsea Pierce, Connecticut. So that was, again, something completely different because it's not something that's done in the DR. So I had no idea about everything that had to go with like entitled to do that. But then while I was doing that, I was also like, I knew like I needed to get something bigger in order to get more experience in the US because I was under a student visa. So my student visa allowed me to stay after I finished my program for a whole year in the US to do an internship, do work or whatever related to my career. So through networking and like talking to people, I was able to connect with someone at the Brewers in Milwaukee, which I I have a cousin that lives in Wisconsin, but I've never been in Milwaukee. I remember like after like that was on my radar, I started like looking for stuff, and in my mind it was Milwaukee, Chicago, like city state. Like I had no idea what that was. And but I started talking to them like, yes, I really, you know, like sports is what makes sense to me. Like sorry, baseball is what makes sense to me because that's what's big on my country, and I know eventually I'll have to go back, and I want to do something, you know, that I can use back there. So it was a long exchange of emails, and I remember it was for Memorial Weekend. So I'm talking to these people. I mean, they have a ton of stuff to do, and then it's like, you know what? It's actually Memorial Day weekend. I'm planning on going to Milwaukee to visit my cousin, which I wasn't. But you know, like I was gonna, I had nothing to do, and I'm like, okay, let's. I'm like, I was wondering if I could go by to your office and maybe we can chat a bit, just talk about like what you're doing and all of that, just getting to know you. And they're like, yeah, sure, whatever, just come, like if you have the time. So I talked to them, and it was Joe Sedanik from the finance department, and we went around the ballpark and everything. We talked about it, and it's like, listen, I don't have anything right now. I do have an internship. I don't know if you're interested in this or if it's something that you want to do, but this is something that like, you know, if you want, you can apply and see what happens. And I was like, absolutely. I applied for the position. I was able to get it. And I remember that was like in May. So until June, I still didn't know what was happening, like if I was going to get it or not. And I had to make a decision because if I didn't get the job, I had to go back to the DR. And it was like, I think it was the first week of July. They're like, yes, you have the job. When are you able to start? And I'm like, well, I want to start right now, even though I had to like move to the Midwest in the place that I didn't know. Well, I did know my cousin. So I was like, talk to him, like, go, can I stay with you? And it worked out. Like, yeah, I just like packed my bags. I remember telling my roommate like a week before that I was leaving, and then got to the Brewers, which was amazing. And it really helped me gain a perspective of like what baseball is and how these companies are managed. So after that, I did that for 11 months. And then my visa time ran out and I had to go back. But while I was in the Brewers, I tried to make connections because I knew that they had an academy down here. So all 30 Major League baseball have facilities in the DR. So, and I knew this. So I was in the Brewers now. So I was able to like connect with people and be like, oh, so do you know who's down there, who's managing this? So I remember started talking to them like in January when I had to be back here in June. But, you know, like I knew things took time and I wanted to get ahead and just like start making connections. And because of them, that person that I met in the Brewers in the DR, when I got back, he helped me connect with the person, the director of the MLB DR office. And I started again, like, oh, I just wanted to introduce myself and just tell you a little bit about myself. There was no job openings at the time. And I'm like, yeah, I just wanted to like know what you're doing here and all of that. And that was July. I got a call for an internship in January the next year. But through all that time, I remember I would like set timers and like send emails to this person like, hey, how you doing? I just wanted to see, you know, follow up. Like, and he was actually, he said that, he's like, listen, I think you're great. I think you're amazing. I don't have anything for you right now, but just stay on the, like, you know, stay on the spotlight, just reach out every now and then, because out of sight, out of mind. That's something that I've learned. And I follow up on that, you know, I'm like, I can be very pushy. And I think that's what I did. And then, so I started with them as an intern in 2016, and on the operations side of baseball, which again, never done it before, learned a lot. And then I was able to get another internship within the company, which led to this job that I now have, which is in the player programs department.
Okay, we'll get back to what you're doing now in a second, okay? That is all very good stuff, what you said. Let me just share a couple things that I just took away from that. Number one, the DR, by the way, for non-baseball fans, most of you probably don't know this, DR has sent many tremendous players to the major leagues. and most of them to the Yankees, unfortunately. So, I mean, I wish I'd sent a few more to the Mets, but at the end of the day, what Carla said that really resonates with me is she got out of her comfort zone, right? You got to do that. Public speaking, whatever it is that whatever your bugaboo is, you got to deal with it. Networking, we've heard that. We heard it today already. We heard it from Kristen. We heard it from Jeff Day in June. And persistence, really. I mean, being persistent. So good for you. We'll come back in a second, but let's bring in Devon Garden. I hope I said that right. I'm
Yep.
gonna say Dev. How's that? Can I say Dev?
That's cool. That's fine.
I'll just tease you. But another stellar graduate and highly regarded individual who came through the program. And why don't you do the same? Why don't you kind of walk us through kind of how you started, where you came from, and where you are now?
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for having me, Dave. Hello, everybody. I'm happy to be here. So I'm a native New Yorker, born and raised in Queens, New York. Uh, I got my bachelor's degree from Malloy College in Long Island. And then while I was really finishing my bachelor's, I was in my senior year, I really started to have that conversation with myself, like, what do I want to do when I get out of college? And I really couldn't think about anything. So I actually went back to look at all my works, and I noticed that I was doing a lot of sports related stuff. So I figured, hey, this is definitely a big interest of mine. Why not pursue it? From there, I was lucky enough where I actually got an internship with CBS Sports in their archival department. While there, that was a good experience, but archival thing, I knew it wasn't my thing, but I just saw it as an opportunity just to get in, get my foot in the door. And it was really like I felt CBS Sports was a nice get, so to speak, for my resume. After that internship finished, I had already graduated, so I was kind of like in between, just trying to figure out what I still wanted to do, but I was still looking around. Then I actually got an internship, which is kind of odd, I think, for sports, but I was really in event management at Grand Central Terminal. There, they have an event space that they rent out. I saw it as an opportunity. I figured that event management is a valuable skill that you could probably use in almost any form of business. And I thought, since I wanted to get into sports, it was actually pretty effective and helpful in building my career, my profile. So after that internship wrapped, I was looking around the market. I was looking around and I said, hey, maybe I should get a master's and go for the master's in sports business management to really specialize, to show people I have a background in this field. So I looked around at several different programs, but I found Manhattanville, and I came up. I'm from Queens, so I took the Owl Drive to Purchase, and I met with Dave and Art Burke. And then I thought, leaving that, I really felt good. I said, this feels right. I really liked the one-on-one personal instruction. I felt where you had access to the instructors. I felt like the classes weren't too big, so I really felt good about it. So then I went to Manhattanville, and I had a lot of great courses. Probably one of my favorite course was actually legal and ethical sports law class with Professor Weiss, I believe. And he was pretty good, and he just really taught me a lot of stuff in sports law, and I thought it was an amazing experience there. And another big drawing point for me to Manhattanville was because I looked at the staff, and they all had every professor, every person involved in the staff was in the sports industry. And I think Dave and Carla just already alluded to, the connections there are just, you really can't put a price on it, just valuable. That's really what you need to get in. So clear evidence was Art Burke had sent around that the Brooklyn Nets and Barclays Center had an internship available for the communications department. Me at the time, I didn't know anything about communications. I didn't really know what was public relations, but Art had a direct email for the hiring manager. So I sent her a note, and then I got an interview, and she loved me. And then she hired me for an internship. We're actually interned with the Nets for 2 semesters. They kept me on as a part-time for their college basketball and their media operations department on that side. So from that connection that I got in Manhattanville, I actually landed a really great internship at the Nets that I built another connection that actually led me to where I am today with the NBA. But I think it's just really important just to build connections and networking, and just be adaptable. I mean, communications, I had no idea what entirely what it was, but I went in there pretty green, and I was just open to do stuff, and I was open to learn, and I really built like really lifelong relationships, and I think that's important.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you for that. And obviously we're going to get to more of what you've done and what you're doing today. Devon, I think, it's important, to note that the internship program is very different for individuals. We have people in the program who are already in the industry. We have people who are just out of college. So Art Burke at the time, who is still a friend of ours and is involved with us, but he was doing the internship coordination for us at that time. So I'm glad that worked out for you. Carla, back to you. Tell us about what you're doing now, how this, this job came out, and your day-to-day kind of what you do for MLB.
Yes, so what my department basically does is education for minor league players, education based on MLB policies, and especially for the guys in Latin America, education on like languages like English. So like I said, like there's 30 academies, 30 facilities in the DR for each team, and in those facilities, it's where they train all the players. Sign on the July 2nd signing period, right? So it's anyone who's from Latin America gets to train there. It's like their first step, and they play on the DSL. So being like English being so important, and like these guys want to get to the U.S., right? Like that's the goal. You want to play in the major leagues. We've noticed in the past there was like a lot of guys who got to the U.S., didn't know how to communicate, knew very little English. So MLB took this initiative way before I joined, and started all teams do English classes for these guys because they understand how important this is. But the good thing is they're not only stopping at English classes. A lot of them have life skills programs, and a lot of them offer the opportunity to these guys who, coming from a Latin American background, they basically dedicate their whole life to baseball. So we got kids here who are training since they're 12, 13, 14, and they might not be paying a lot of attention to school. So they have an opportunity to do that while they're training to become professional athletes. So my work at the commissioner's office is in the DR. It's kind of make sure that those classes are good. They're quality classes, that they're following the standards and all of that, and then help come out with programs to educate these players.
Very good. Very interesting too. I think, and obviously for you, and I think, this is something I wish I had done for myself, but speaking multiple languages, you speak the two languages, Spanish and English?
Yeah.
Yeah, which, and your English is tremendous. So actually the whole group, I thought they were very good. Very good writing too from this group when they were here. Devon, why don't you tell us about your day-to-day and how you kind of landed where you are?
Yeah, sure, no problem. So the NBA communications department had a job opening for their internal archivist role. So I applied for it. I actually got it. It was I worked 29 hours a week. I just took whatever project they gave me. It wasn't really glamorous roles or anything, glamorous job or anything like that, but I just really saw it as my foot in the door. So I took that and I started understanding how entirely the communications department works. And really the main role of the department, we protect and we promote the NBA brand while promoting its core values at this time. So from there, I kind of established myself and just worked my way up. I was promoted in August of 2019 to where I have a leadership roles with our NBA 2K League and our NBA G League, and telling those stories for their players in that league as a whole. And then I also have I'm part of the subgroup of our league operations communications team, where we manage pretty much basketball media relations and create and develop media policy designed to really tell the NBA story and make sure our media is having a good experience while also balancing the needs of our players and teams at the same time. And I also, like, from once we have tentpole events, me and my subgroup, my colleagues, we also were in charge of like organizing and executing media operations for finals, all-star, summer league, draft. So it's really enjoyable. One of the things I like, I think, in a PR role, your day to day really it's really something different every day. So I think that for me, that's enjoyable. It breaks up like the routine and monotony. So that's pretty much where I am, and I think it's great. I think the storytelling aspect of my job is amazing. Everybody knows the stories of our bigger name players, like our superstars, but I think getting the story out there about a guy who developed in the G League and has now become a critical player on a championship team is a great story to get out there and tell. Or even in the 2K league and the esports league, it's just like, this is a brand new league, and these guys, their lives are being changed every day when they win tournaments and get this prize money. It's really just a great way to tell, like, the player brands and everything that's going on these days. Yeah.
It's a great, it's a great point too, because everybody knows who LeBron is, right? Everybody knows, like you said, the superstars of the league, but those are great stories. And I imagine for you as well, that writing is a critical component of what you do.
Yes.
Okay.
It's critical. Communication is critical. When I'm going out there pitching to writers, I won't have their attention span for very long. So, I got to make sure I give them something that's interesting right off the bat, and just really cultivating that relationship and building that relationship.
Well, having done that work for a while myself for many years, I know that if you feed a journalist, you have their attention. So, you gotta have the media room with the food, so that kind of gets them going.
The media dining is very important.
Very important. Very good. Okay. We'll put that on the highlights for the end. So, Carla, what have you learned kind of on the job? And this is important for me to know, as the director of the program, what have you learned on the job that maybe you thought, this wasn't covered, or I wish I know more about this when I was getting my degree? Or maybe there's a class that we should be adding. Or did we cover it all?
That's super interesting, like, because when I was enrolled in the program, it was only sports business. And then you added the entertainment component, which was, to me, I mean, it was personally like super, it was interesting. And I was like, oh shoot, I wish it would have been there when I was there. But even, I think all the classes you had were great. And even like, I reached out to you last year because I didn't get the opportunity while I was enrolling college to do the baseball analytics one. And I'm like, if I would have known like that I was going to be in baseball, like, I would definitely take in this one. And I actually just audited the class later just because, like, I thought that was going to be just like important knowledge to have. But I would have loved to be on this new part now with the entertainment side. That would be interesting.
Thank you for that. And by the way, and so we've added, we're always kind of adding and kind of recreating the program. And the entertainment, for people to understand, we want to expand, and we're still in the process of doing this, adding other areas of entertainment so that we have TV and theater and all things that really aren't sports related, because as we all know, sports is entertainment. As Kristen Wilson, who was here with us, I don't know if she left, but she was here, and she, WWE, when guys come in and tell me they want to work there, I kind of look at them, kind of make sure that they know that that's really not a sport, but they know how to market, and they are entertainment, right? So there she is. Hi, Kristen. Good to see you. Devon, same question for you. What kind of, you mentioned the legal and ethical aspects, and that's great. It's a very good course, and everybody should have that under their belt, the law and the finance, because those are two areas. What about you? What have you found that maybe you would have liked, maybe a stronger presence, or maybe something that you feel you've learned on the job?
Right. Yeah, sure. Well, yeah, like I said, I really love the sports law, legal aspect. So if there was like another branch of that, I would have definitely taken it, whether if it was like a specialized like contract or, well, there was contract negotiations, but I'm just saying if there's things in that area I really enjoyed. But I do agree with Carla that entertainment, I think, was definitely something that I would like, that would have interested me at the time, because I really wasn't sure which area I was going in. So like, sports technically, I guess, is a form of entertainment. So that was definitely enjoyable. And things I learned in a job that I wish I could have learned more. Let me think about this.
It's good that you're taking this much time to think
Yeah.
about it. That means you're doing a good job. All right.
I feel like he covered a lot. That's why I
All
really
right.
like, it's nothing that stands out to me. That
Here's what we didn't cover, okay? And this is my next
Mhm.
question. How to work during a pandemic. Because
yeah.
I don't think anybody saw this coming. And if you told me 3 years ago, I'd be like, come on. All right, but we're dealing with it. We're all we're all in different places. I'm above the Rose Bowl here. My colleagues are virtually in front of Manhattanville College. So it's crazy. It's messed up, whatever you want to say. But we're dealing with it, right? Carla, how have you had to deal with it, and how has it made your job either different, or how have you had to adjust with this?
Well, and you said like 3 years ago, I mean, if you would have said, like, talking to you about this, what was happening in China in December and even February, like January, like hearing, oh, there's something happening, but you still, like, at least for me, I'm like, okay, I know there's something happening, but I didn't know it was gonna, like, be this way. Because I remember I was traveling in January, February, and I saw a few people like wearing masks at the airport and stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's weird. I didn't think it was gonna come to this, and especially like in the DR, like we started lockdown and curfew on, I remember it was March 13, and it was a Friday, and we were at the office, like I had a meeting outside the office, and when I came back, like, they had sent an email, it's like, oh, gather all your belongings or whatever you need to do, some work from home. And it was like a pretty big email, and I'm like, oh yeah, they'll probably closing out the office for the weekend or something, and like we'll be back on Monday. And then on Monday we got another email like, oh, we're waiting to see what the government says, because the government hadn't said it. Like, we even had an election that Sunday, and Monday we got the emails like, oh, I think we're gonna stay working from home for this week because we're waiting on like the government resolution. So 2 days after that, the whole country went on lockdown. Our borders closed. It was curfew, like from like 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. It was just like completely crazy. And even so, like March happened, April happened, and it's like, oh yeah, this is all like we're gonna get out of this. Like, I was still talking about going to the office next month and doing all the things that we usually do, because our programming requires a lot of traveling, because we visit players in Arizona, Florida, and all that. So we're still talking about, yes, well, we're going to be cautious about but we still had some plans for the end of year that involve like normalcy. So it's I think we're September now, and we're still doing it. So the way has changed. So we've had to do all of our stuff, all of our like educational stuff and programming online, which has been pretty challenging, but I've learned so much. So I like it. At the beginning it was hard, but I think it's great because we're able to get to more players now, because sometimes like, oh, the player was, if he had like training or whatever, he couldn't get to our training, but now it's just like they can access all this stuff whenever they want, and it's in a more comfortable setting, because some of our programs sometimes run for like 3 hours, and like no one wants to sit there for 3 hours. The things that you want to do. So I feel like now we're doing it like little bites, and I feel like, and we've had an amazing response from the people participating on these things. So it's been good. And I also, I mean, it's not good. It's a pandemic. It's not good. But I think it's also like on the DR side as a whole, like we weren't used to do like remote working. That was like a big no-no in any offices here. So I think that that's pushed everyone to, be more flexible about that and be like, okay, you can work from home, you can make it work. And I feel like sometimes I'm like overworking because like all the Zoom meetings and the emails, and there's not like a balance, like you just don't know when to disconnect. But I think now I'm just like, I think I'm used to this. I'm enjoying the working from home. That's all.
All right. Fair enough. And I think, your point, and it's very interesting for me because I think that, there's a silver lining. Not this is not that anyone would ever say this has been good. It has been good. Well, let's get it over with. Let's get back to normal hopefully as soon as we can. But there are, things, we've all learned to kind of adjust and adapt. And this is kind of our new normal with the Zoom and whatever else that we've had to do. I think it's taught even our professors, and some of them are older guys, how to work online and use Blackboard and all this stuff. So, even in the Great Depression, some people came out of that smelling pretty good. I mean, making, a lot of money or building businesses. So you have to really kind of forge ahead. You can't put your head in the sand and just say, woe is me, right? So, but Devon, how about you? How does it change for you? What's different other than you're working from remotely?
Yeah, I think the thing that's really I'll always remember was I was traveling to Chicago in February, and somebody had mentioned to me, "Oh, be careful! There's some virus or something coming," and I kind of like just brushed it off and just said, "Okay," and that stayed with me. And then early March, because my job and my group, we were like in charge of like media policy for events. We started making adjustments really, I think that Monday, Friday, to the media policy where it's like, all right, so for your media scrum or your press conference, media have to be 6 feet away. They have to be a tape recorders on the table. Right. And I was thinking like, okay. And then the next day, everything just escalated, and then season suspended. And then they say, all right, everybody grab your stuff. You're going to have to work from home. And I think like everybody in the world, I was thinking maybe, all right, a week or two, nothing too crazy, but here we are 6 months later, we're still working remotely. So has my job changed? Yeah, it's changed a good amount. I mean, we had to like develop new procedures to follow all our health and safety protocols for players, for media. And then also we're just like, I find working from home, you have to like communicate, really over communicate all the time. Because it's different from like when you're in an office environment, like, hey, if I work side by side with somebody, I could just yell over my cubicle, hey, you got that? Now you have to like call or send a note. But I think, working from home before this never really was my thing, because I used to like coming into the office and just like feel like, all right, I'm checking in, I can just my workspace. But now it's like my home is my workspace. So it's like I'm still here all the time. And so I think like overall, like I've been doing it day in, day out, like I've gotten used to it. I think there's really like a lot of tools available that we have that can definitely like make the experience go seamless. But I will admit, like I do miss the truly face-to-face interaction with people, and hopefully we get back to that pretty soon. But it's really just been adjusted. It's been an adjustment. But I think in the business of sports, a lot of businesses, you just have to be adaptable to whatever comes your way. You have to be able to adapt and still be able to communicate. And
right.
Yeah,
I think you're right. And then you got to be smart about it, right? So I've had a couple of meetings. I've actually fortunately been able to start getting outside and having some outside meetings, which means I've had to put pants on, one. And two, I get to see people face to face, which for me is I like to shake hands. I like to, give people hugs and stuff. But I mean, hopefully, like I said, we'll all get that back soon. But let me pause here. If there's anybody who has a question, you can put it in the chat and I'll ask it, or Brian. Brian, I see, has put some stuff in there about people who are interested in applying. We do have some current students on this call, which I give you great credit for. It shows me obviously that you are paying attention, but that you're also kind of going above and beyond, which I'm not surprised which ones are on here. But anybody want to unmute yourself and ask a question now? Please feel free. Don't be shy. We don't bite. I see Mr. and Mrs. Cole looking at us on there. You guys, how you doing?
Hey, how are you?
Hey guys.
Yes, my son is here and he has a question. Go ahead.
Good.
It's my son, James.
Right. Mine's for Carla. Have you worked with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at the DR site?
I I know he was on one of our programs. I don't remember specifically, but I did get the opportunity to meet his dad,
Okay.
the office, and he was just talking about his career, and he's a very like nice person, and there's like you hear his stories, then you just like crack laughing. But I think Vladimir Jr. was on one of our programs at one point. When I'm in these programs, like if I'm not presenting, I'm like behind stage, like planning or whatever. So I sometimes see the guys and I'm like, I think I know, like I hear your name, I know who you are, but there's not a lot of like interaction. It's mostly like, yes, food is here. Yes, you can do this and that. But maybe he was, but I don't really remember. Sorry.
You know, it's interesting. The point and the question are good because I think, you know, when we talk to people about coming into the sport business management program, we talk about it's really, you know, we're all fans. Saying you're a fan is I mean, like saying you like eat. I mean, at the end of the day, we all know that we're sports fans, but it's really about the business of the sport. And sometimes you will run into people and meet people who are superstars, both on the business end and players and athletes. And you kind of have to get used to that. I mean, because you know, the last thing they want is people walking around starstruck. So, and by the way, Vladimir Guerrero Sr. was a great player too. So,
Yeah, and
anybody
then
else?
going
Sorry,
back to
Carla.
when I started with the Brewers, I remember talking to like staff members, and they exactly like they said that they're like if you see someone, like if you see a baseball player, like stay cool, like don't go ask for his autograph, don't do
Oh,
anything,
yeah.
you know, just like normal, you know, like a normal person. And it's funny because like anytime like we have any of the events or any program or whatever, my dad, who's a huge baseball fan, he's always like, so who are you gonna get me? Because I was able, I got him the Vladimir Guerrero like autograph signed because he went into the office, you know, like he talked to us like it was an employee event where it was okay to ask for, you know, for that. They even said like, oh, if you have a baseball that you want him to sign, you could just give it to us and we'll take time and he'll do it. So after that, my dad's like, oh, so who did you get me now? Like, what ball did you get me? And I'm like, I can't go and ask for this autograph. So he said, no, but you know, like, you should really try. The other thing is, like, you talked to him, right? Like, so I'm like, no, I can't do that. So that was something I learned, like, really early on because they were like, yeah, if you see someone on the hallway, like, I didn't see anyone at the Brewers ever, I don't think. But they're like, don't, like, just be normal. Don't.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a great story because when I was one of my first jobs in sports, I was the pool reporter because up in Springfield, Mass, they played a Hall of Fame game. The Hall of Fame game was actually between the Los Angeles Lakers with Magic Johnson and the Chicago Bulls with Michael Jordan. I got the Chicago locker room, a small locker room. So I'm talking to Michael Jordan. I'm a 22-year-old kid, and I'm thinking to myself, should I ask him? The inner voice said to me, don't do it. Just, you know, play it cool. Yeah, Michael, so tell me about the blah, blah, blah. Devon, how about you? Have you had that experience?
Yeah, like really in a similar experience where like I've been in locker rooms with all stars and finals, and I'm sitting here, I'm grabbing quotes from Kyrie Irving or you know any type of NBA superstar, and to me, I try not to get too caught up in the moment, at least not right in it. So like I try to stay cool. Then when I like you know everything's done, I'm like, wow, that was amazing. Like who would have thought like I'll be here at this time of just doing this and this working side by side, telling these guys like, hey, you gotta I need you to take you now because we gotta do an interview with ESPN or Turner or something like that. So I think it's just cool. Just you know, you interact with like pretty high name talent in sports throughout. So, but just you know, just come out, you be professional, you do your job, and then afterward you can reflect upon it, and it's still amazing. And then some guys, you develop a relationship with them, or if you work with them so much, they'll just help. You know, they might volunteer stuff, which is I've found, which is pretty cool. But I've never really asked for anything. But yeah.
Yeah, right. Anybody else? Any other questions? That was a good one, James. Anybody else?
Hi, Dave. It's Brian. I just want to jump in quick. And first and foremost, introduce myself. My name is Brian Sunday. I'm the Director of Graduate Admission at Manhattanville.
overseeing applications and admissions for the School of Professional Studies. I just want to take a moment to very much thank Carla and Devon for being here today. Your stories mean so much to our current and future students, and I've really enjoyed listening. Devon, I actually used to be a coach at the college level, and I've worked with two coaches who are G League affiliated. One is now a lead assistant with the Blue, and the other was with the Delaware franchise, but he's now a Division I head coach at Maryland Eastern Shore. So I'm sure they very much appreciate the stories that you can tell on their behalf, because it is looked at as a lower level, but there's so much good that comes out of it. But the question I had, which is for both Carla and Devon, and it's something I talk to with our current and future students a lot, is you have some pretty unique job titles and some things that we might not think about when we're exploring a career in sport. So my question for you was, what is or was your dream job in athletics? Have you achieved it, or do you now see this as your dream job and where you're going? I just think it's interesting how much variety is offered in the sport industry.
Good question. Carla, why don't you take that one first?
Yeah, so when I decided to do the program and go into sports, I didn't have anything like, oh, this is what I want to do, but I've always wanted to do like events and fundraising and social responsibility. It's always been some, like growing up in a third world country, you see a lot of people in need. And that was something that I've always wanted to do at any capacity. And then I was able to, connect that with the job that I'm doing right now, which is, there's part of I can do some social responsibility and community efforts down in the DR. Like we did a beach cleanup the other day. We do fundraising for specific institutions in the DR, and do it in a way that we integrate the players and kind of like helping them like realize the good that's here and kind of like putting that into their mindset. Cause like, okay, maybe right now you can't do much, but this is something that you might want to do in the future. So I think I'm not there yet because it's only like a part of like what I'm doing, but social responsibility and community efforts and fundraising is something that it's where I wanna be. I'm lucky that I can do part of it right now, and I wish I could continue growing on that and making like that be my title or my career.
Yep. So my dream job coming to sports, I wanted to go into broadcasting. I actually wanted to be a play-by-play announcer. That was really like my dream job. But because I think I was attracted to the fact that, Vince Scully, Joe Bucks, Mike Breen, the play-by-play announcer really captures the moments and really can tell the story of the moment. So while I'm not there, I decided not to, because I started seeing like the amount of work that goes into like broadcasting and the grind you have to do. Like it's a tough job. So I have a really incredible level of respect for all those guys. But so it kind of transitioned pretty cool, because now I was like, I'm not broadcasting, but I'm still, telling these guys stories that get out there and just giving it out to like writers to really help to grow the game and grow the players. And I think the way things worked out, I'm pretty happy about it. And like what I'm doing right now, I do love it. So I'm excited to continue and just to keep getting out there, whether it's telling a story of coaches, players, referees, executives. I think it's cool.
Yeah, it is cool. And you know what, at the end of the day, I love what you just said about loving your job, because that's why I got into sports. I wanted to like what I did. I wanted to get up every day and be excited and have, kind of a passion. And pursuing your passion is very important. There is a wide open pathway here into the sports industry. I'm seeing, there's going to be a lot of growth. There's been, even through this, we've all seen some athletic departments are furloughing people. That's going to happen. But at the end of the day, there's been still a lot of growth. And when we finally get over the hump with this, there's going to be a ton of hiring, and there's going to be a lot of new startups. So get those resumes ready and communicate well. Any other questions before I wrap this up? We're coming up in an hour. I want to keep it to under an hour if possible, but I don't want to rush either. Any other
Dave,
questions?
this is Mark. I just wanted to kind of piggyback on what you were just talking about in terms of, the whole sports environment and the job situation. and just kind of wanted to get your sense from those of you who are in it and on the front lines, how quickly do you think this is going to change? What would you be doing now if you were looking to get into the field? Is it going to be different when we emerge from it? Just kind of give me your read on what you, from a job market perspective, and especially those feeder markets, the minor leagues that many people have to go through in order to get to the big league someday.
We'll open it up to our panelists, but if anybody else wants to comment on that, Kristen, I see you're here. Shane Beardsley, if anybody wants to jump in and answer that, please feel free.
I can give one perspective. So, I think a lot of companies have had to make quick adjustments to try and stay afloat. So as Dave said, I work for WWE, and we were forced to furlough a ton of employees back in April because all of a sudden our live event business went away, and that is one of our big revenue drivers. And then last Thursday we unfortunately had to do a round of layoffs, which if you look at across the board at a lot of different companies, we're pretty lucky that we've been able to go this long without laying people off. But I will say that, with these rash decisions or these quick decisions that these companies have to make to preserve revenue, I do think as they learn and adapt to the marketplace, that they are going to open up new opportunities, different opportunities that they don't even know are coming. So for someone who is just looking to get into the industry or into the business, I think there's going to be a lot of temporary jobs, part-time jobs, as they try and figure out how to adapt. And it's an opportunity for anyone who's looking to get into the market. Like, take advantage of those opportunities, because there's a lot of people that aren't working. So if you have a chance to take on one of these temp roles just to get your foot in the door, as things open up, you're going to be considered. So that's just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Kristen.
Welcome.
Anybody else want to jump in on that one? I'll just add my 2 cents then. I think she's right. I think there will be. Here's number one. You have, if you've got your degree, then you need a master's degree, because a master's degree, whether it's in this program or any of the other programs, is something that is equivalent to what a bachelor's was 25 years ago. It's just the way it is. I tell my 2 kids the same thing. They're both recent college graduates. They're going to have to get a master's degree, in my opinion, at some point. So very important. But get a degree, and also if you can do something. What do we talk about here? I'll just recap this now. I was going to wait, but and this has been recorded, for your edification. If you want to see yourself on camera or watch this, or if you came in late, like some people did, and that's fine. We do have this recorded, and send us a note, and we'll get you the copy of the recording. So, but writing, communication is very important. Learn how to be a communicator, an excellent writer. Work on that. This is something you can work on. Networking, always be networking. You have to. We still do it. Mark Jeffers is here. Myself, Walter Retcher. You're always growing your network, right? That's why we have the adjunct professors, because they bring in great guest speakers, and we all like to learn what they have to say, and that grows our network. That's why we do the career fair every year. Although we will not be able to do it this year, but we might have something to offer on that in that regard as well. Get back to me on that. Carla, get out of your comfort zone, she mentioned, right? That's important. Okay, if you're afraid to speak in public, just do it as much as you can. Join Toastmasters or whatever. These classes, they all have group projects, and you have to speak. Most of them do anyway. So those are the things that you have to do, and persistence. You have to be persistent. This is a very competitive industry. We all know that, right? So we'll put Carla or Devon or Kristen or Shane over the top, and they can tell you their personal stories, and we could go on for days and days. But at the end of the day, don't give up. What Jim Valvano said, don't ever give up. So, and then when you do get your foot in the door, be professional. Don't go asking for autographs, or just be professional. And if you screw up, find out what the issue was, and just grow from that, right? Because I'm still growing. My boss will tell you that. She knows, there are things that I got to work on too. So at the end of the day, we're all growing every day. So And if there's any other questions, I'm happy to entertain that now. If not, we'll probably wrap this up. And thank everybody for their time. Thank you again, Brian, and thank you, Laura. Thank you, Danielle, for Dominique. I'm sorry, Danielle. Dominique for setting this all up. My colleague Dominique, and thank you all for joining us.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Got it, guys.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank
You got it. Thank you.
Everybody, thanks, Dave.